Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Covenant Cast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Steven.
I'm Jonathan.
And today, we're talking about what is an LCG? All right, well, let's actually dive into this.
This is cute.
We're yeah, cool. We're live. Not actually live. We're recording. Jonathan.
Yes.
You haven't been here.
I haven't been
in
here.
episode
I was
2.
gone last episode.
And this is important. I would like to know. I think the whole world.
The whole world.
Basically, the
world's
whole
ready.
world, minus everyone that doesn't listen to our podcast.
Right.
Would love to know
Uh-huh.
what the status of your land acquisition project is.
Well, Zach, I was gone last week for one very important reason. I was signing the closing papers on my house and my land. I'm a homeowner. Whoa!
You're a landowner.
You're a landowner.
You've got lots of land.
Yes.
At least an acre.
And I have a mortgage, which means I think something along the lines of deal until death.
I think that means you're an adult.
Yeah.
You made it.
I got a mortgage. I got a 401k.
Yeah,
Alright,
you can
how's that feel?
dump that if you need to for various bankruptcy purposes. Just keep that in mind.
All right,
Like that's now an asset that you have.
If you ever
to-
need that, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. It's great. It's a long journey. As people who are watching knows, we were really unsure if it would happen. And it did. It finally did. We kind of kept it under wraps because every time we had talked about it before almost happening, it did not happen. So I think we were, once bit, twice shy. And we were bit at this point 3 times. So I think that's 6 times
Fool me
shy.
once, shame on
8
you.
times
Bit.
shy.
Yeah.
That's 8 times
Fool
shy.
me
yeah.
again, never get fooled
Yeah,
or whatever
never,
it is.
Never get fooled.
Well, congratulations.
So yeah, we went out there on Sunday. Steven came out, Mom and Dad came out, and we all looked around. It's great. I had a really good time, kind of giving a tour to everybody. It was
We
a lot
walked
of fun.
it.
We walked it.
Back 40,
Back
front
40,
60.
front 60, all around the mulberry bush, and it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. I mean, of course, there's going to be an adjustment period as we move in there and get all of our stuff, and then get kind of used to that type of life and that sort of living.
Is
Country
there
life.
Is there weight, gravity, or like relief in the idea that you just committed to like a 30-year plan?
So basically, there are 3 things happening at once. There is elation, excitement, just absolutely like
Is that
oh my
one or
gosh.
2 things?
That's one. I finally did. This has been a dream of mine since I really moved out from the house to go to college in 2002. So it's kind of a long time coming. This is awesome that's actually like I've been able to sort of manifest the things that I really found valuable. That's awesome. Super excited to get out there. Super excited about what all is going to happen. At the same time, absolutely terrified. I haven't been out in the country for a very long time. I don't have a lot of those skills yet. And so there's that. And then on top of that, there's sort of the realistic, okay, this is what has to get done. We need this, we need this, and we need this. And so that's sort of a roller coaster kind of going on all the time in my head. And luckily, like I've kind of learned throughout the years that the sort of terrifying side of things never really gotten me anywhere if I listen to it. So I can kind of like put that one away usually. So we have the excitement and the realistic stuff. And
Nice.
that's kind of what we're going to try to, I mean, I have to use energy to like quiet down that terror voice. But that's where
The
I'm
human
at.
struggle.
Yeah, the human
That's
struggle.
right.
Retired human drama.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where that goes.
I think there's only 2 skills needed. The first is the ability to convince yourself that the noise you just heard is not a threat. And the second one is being able to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
2 things that will get you, I think, where you need to go.
Basically, you might survive.
Well, and that's I talk about it a lot on the cast, which is like the more you do something, the better you get, and I know that to be the case. So it's just like I just got to go from 0 to 1. That's the hardest part. Once I get to 1, then everything else will kind of happen. So I just got to get up off
that
the
is
ground and all
definitely
that
the
stuff.
hardest part.
Yeah.
Make a
Yeah,
list.
you have to get infinitely more knowledge than you have if you start with 0 knowledge. So
That's right.
I just need to do that. And then,
Gain
once I
infinite
have all
knowledge,
that-
basically
Math.
enlightenment. What about you,
Math.
Steven?
As a side note to that, first of all, the weather's gotten great in Oklahoma.
gosh, it's so
makes a big difference.
Summer's over.
On that note, this Saturday, wrapping into the country conversation, I have been adamantly perturbed by the city requirement for brush. It makes no sense.
has to be
I mean,
like
not
bundled?
that it makes no sense.
For the non-country
it's
folk, what's
remarkable.
brush?
It's
Besides what you comb your hair with.
it's fallen limbs and things, right? So we had
Gitrus.
we had some, there's leaves or deciduous trees. Leaves will fall on your yard, and then you have storms come through and sticks and all sorts of twigs, big things, and they tell you if they're small enough, just stuff them in the trash can, which is ridiculous, right? That's just ridiculous. The trash, it's going to a landfill where they're just, burning stuff up. So I guess it's fine. But it's like, I don't want shrubbery in my trash can, right? That's not necessary.
Fair, I guess.
But they tell you also have to bag it, which is like, seriously, I'm bagging nature.
I'm putting nature
and
into
throwing
a
it
plastic
into a garbage.
bag. Yeah.
It's infuriating. And so then the other option is like, well, you just leave it out in front of your house. And you call them up, and they'll send a special brush squad or something like that on the case. And
brush squad.
They'll come pick it up, I assume in like a flatbed or something. Well, anyway, I did that, but they wouldn't pick it up because it was not of adequate length. It can't be more than 18 inches, and so you have to chop it down and bundle it with twine in nice bundles.
This seems like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's crazy. Because if you're not in the city, what happens is you collect all the brush, put it in a pile, and burn it. Right?
I've seen that.
Yeah, very
Standard.
simple.
I grew up seeing that.
You can call it a
Driving down the road,
bonfire.
it's like, it's a bonfire.
You can call it a brush fire. You can call it whatever you want.
A fire?
You get a couple of Coors
any
Lights,
kind?
and you sit around all day. So yeah, call it Boosh Light. Boosh. So
I got a joke for you.
3 whales. So here's what I did is in an act of great defiance, I woke up on Saturday morning and I said, I really want to light the chimenea.
You mean last Saturday?
Last Saturday.
Right.
This most recent Saturday. I really want to light the chimenea, which is, for those that don't know.
For non-country folk,
it comes from New Mexico, I think, and probably further south down into Mexico.
Old
and
Mexico.
It's the classic. It's essentially a giant clay pot with a chimney. That's basically it, I guess.
Yeah.
I did a good job.
You burn things in it.
It's a big opening, and it's got a chimney, and then you put stuff in it. It's not a fire.
Yeah.
Well, the intent of a chimney is always supposed to be like, just kind of for smells. You put some pinyon in there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit warm, but because it's also enclosed, it doesn't provide a lot of radiant heat. So what I ended up doing is taking all of the brush that I had put out at the front of the house, grabbed it all, took it back to the back of the house, and started stoking the chimney with it. And proceeded to do that for the next 3.5 hours of my life.
Burn it all.
I just sat there.
Spite in your heart.
And I just broke sticks, put them in the chimney, waited. Broke, chimney, waited. And it took me 3.5 hours, and it was actually quite enjoyable by hour 1. I was really locked in. I was kind of enjoying the outside air.
Just
Everything
doing
was
nothing.
great. Just literally doing nothing. And all the wood was very wet. So that was very difficult. So if I let my guard down, then it would definitely go out. So I was blowing on it all the time. I was keeping oxygen on it. I had to really work at it. And then I took a shower and started my day. So.
Nice. It's nice to be able to just sit there with a fire on a very one-to-one basis.
Yeah. And Shannon was reading and making dream catchers. It was really cool. She was crafting. We were just being a country couple in the city.
Yep.
So
Stuck in the city. Well, that's something.
And we played Netrunner Tuesday.
We played Netrunner on Tuesday.
Played some more L5R, of course.
Yeah, I went on Saturday. I went to the release tournament that we had, and sort of sitting there getting locked into a fire and what you say locked into this event,
that's
this
a
thing.
really good segue.
Had a really good time. Just enjoyed it. I was playing just to have really just a relaxing day. Ended up after round 3, someone dropped from the tournament and it was going to be odd. And so instead of someone having to get the bye, I just dropped so that they would have a game, and then I just changed my deck and deck built and talked with people and stuff. So
What'd you learn?
that was good.
What'd you
I learn?
change about your deck? What did you...
Everything. Phoenix is not good enough to just go honor. I think the reality of Phoenix is, as a clan, they're adaptable and they can really leverage the rings, unlike other clans. They can use multiple rings multiple times, and they can do tricky things. And it's not so much about one specific ring, like air and honor and that kind of thing, but the fact that based on the board state, I can choose the ring to really go after and penalize you one direction or another. So I got a little more offensive. I built it so that I can actually win the game, not by dishonoring them.
All right,
I kept getting people down to 1 or 2 honor, and then if the only thing they're doing is fighting to not lose on honor, it gets really hard to take that last honor.
For sure.
So there's that, and then the other notable thing is the new Star Wars trailer.
Happens.
We're not even going to talk about it because there's people
thoughts.
trying to make it to the movie without it. John didn't like it.
I have strong opinions.
I loved it.
I don't want to have strong opinions, but I find myself in the curmudgeon
Steven's
position.
excited to see the movie. I think.
Yeah, I'm always just, I just don't let myself get involved in another art form that I have to care a lot about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like music is kind of my thing, and I can't even get far enough in music to feel satisfied. So I'm not even going to get into cinema.
Yeah.
Just, tell me what's good.
Well, let's get into something you have been getting into, which is living card games.
I mean, it's a mind-blowing thing that happened. Actually, this podcast episode was not even going to be about this.
Not exactly.
But obviously, we play a lot of LCGs, so it's always kind of LCG related, at least on the periphery.
a couple episodes ago, we talked about the Netrunner reboot. Because they announced the revised core set, and there's rotation happening for the first time in an LCG, and it was like, all right, this is the new Netrunner.
I'm thrilled.
Then after that episode went up, they announced the new Most Wanted list with a restricted and a banned list for the first time in Netrunner, banning cards.
Big boy pants are on there.
And they just shook it up. So we were originally going to talk about that and Netrunner and all the changes now with everything that we understand going into Worlds next month, and banned restricted list, and we're still going to get into some of that. But then today, literally this morning, it was announced that the first cycle of Legend of the Five Rings, the newest LCG, is breaking the mold again and doing something kind of off, what do you call it?
Script?
Off book?
Off brand?
Off book?
Off book.
chess.
Yeah, that's really on brand.
Throwback to the
to a previous episode. Anyways, off book, which is the first cycle, at least as the article indicated. First 6 packs are going to come out instead of once a month, over 6 months, 6 weeks.
One per week.
One per
we
week.
presume.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
it's a.
Reactions, yeah.
I like it.
On record.
I'm on record as liking
Hold
it.
on.
I'm also. I don't want that to. There's a lot to that, right? Because I understand that some people are going to be pretty price adverse to what they were budgeting for 6 packs over, let's say, 6 months, and it happens in 2 months instead. That could be problematic. I did read a comment just recently about the fact that
doing it on the clock, right?
the fact that the LCGs research for the podcast, podcast research,
All right, I got to make another note.
podcast.
Wait, how much of podcast research do I get every year, every hour?
6 hours a day.
So I was reading this comment and I thought this was very well put, that there's one way to look at this if you are price adverse, instead of just pulling the cord and getting out, is saying that these are non-random packs. And because they're non-random packs, if you see something that you like, you can then go to your store and buy it, right? You don't have to buy all of them to have everything. Instead, you can deck build with the core, and then as money becomes available, you can buy the stuff that is most appealing to you to help that deck, and maybe even stay on your same pack a month budget. That said, and with that concession made, I think it's really cool because I love that they're shaking this up. Because this, to answer the topic so we can just move on, people can just get on with their lives, LCGs were basically a distribution model, right? It was a way to distribute cards. That really isn't enough they weren't leveraging the rest of the distribution model in ways that were exciting. Perhaps this is it. It's definitely a signal between this and the way they're doing Netrunner. They're willing to take some chances, which I'm really, really excited about because I think that there's a lot more space there to explore.
So I had a lot of reactions to this kind of announcement, and I'll hit some of the responses to some of the things you said. I think you're completely correct in that between Netrunner rotation, instead of they announced the Evergreen core sets originally in boxes, and instead of doing that, they did the revised core set where they're booting cards from the original core set and pulling it for a cycle.
You didn't even reboot of Thrones. I mean, that wasn't in the plans.
That's true.
Like, you were told that this was going to last forever,
I don't know if first edition Thrones was told that.
Well,
I don't know if anyone's ever told it's going to last forever.
Well, no,
that's like
not
buying
forever.
land and expecting that to go on
That's
forever.
true, that's true. That's true.
Anyways, so the trick for me is that when I'm thinking about, as someone who frequently plays competitively in games, I know I've played a lot of LCGs in the past, and there definitely is now that I've been playing Destiny, which is a collectible game, and they have a set like every 4-ish months so far, big spike of cards, all these new options, and there's this crazy pandemonium for a month or two. Really made me realize LCGs, and we've talked about the LCG model in general a lot on the podcast, but made me realize that LCGs do, after the core set comes out, lack that exploration phase in a heavy dose, right? So like L5R, there's 7 clans. If you have 20 cards in a pack, then most clans are getting 2 cards. And so if you're a Phoenix player, you get 2 new cards that you may or may not fit into the theme you're after. And there may be splashable cards in there, but there's probably 2 to 3 cards you care about. Not exactly game shaking. Like really not gonna blow the world up. So they have this new distribution method, right? With the 6-packs all at once, the game's gonna obviously be way different after 6-packs, hopefully, than before. We've seen that in Star Wars LCG, actually. First 6-pack came out and nothing happened. I pray that doesn't happen. But as a competitive player, purely, I think competitive players are gonna love this, which is, you have the core set. They said the pack's gonna start coming out in November, so it's a little over a month after it comes out. You have the core set, you're figuring out the game, there's a lot of exploration there. Then you get hit, there's 6 weeks in a row, a bunch of packs, the game's changing every week, so you have tournaments and events and stuff. Then you get to the other side of that, and now you actually have this like calm era of no releases, but we have a card pool that we're trying to massage and kind of figure out, right? And so for competitive players, I think it's great. I think actually for the hyper casual players, like you were kind of referencing, which is like, I'm gonna buy the packs when I want. I may not even buy all the packs. I'm gonna buy the packs I'm interested in.
May buy none packs.
I also don't think they care that much, right? The only way they care is because they come out so fast, if they sell out and they can't get a hold of them, then that's kind of annoying. Because I'm not ready to buy all of them all at once. I don't want to spend that much money all at once, all these different reasons. I actually think the people who are kind of in between, which I wouldn't say are purely competitive or purely casual.
I think that's me with L5R, by the way.
And I actually think it's most people that play LCGs,
a lot of people.
which is, I want a game, right? You played the collectible games as a kid, or maybe you never did, but you're in this game, and the kind of the beauty of LCGs is that it's a slow drip, right? Or historically, as LCGs have been pitched, slow drip, and it's easy to keep up with, it's easy to stay on top of, the meta doesn't change rapidly, so decks are a little easier to hone in on, and you can slowly hone them over like a 6 to 12 month period, right? And the real trick is that it's not that 6-packs all at once or even all in the same day are not feasible, but it's we're a week or 2 after the game came out, and for the first time in 7 or 8 LCGs, you're doing something dramatically differently, and that's the first time we're hearing about it. So you have players who are going to feel, because they bought in,
they bought in with a certain expectation,
a certain thing, and now in a month, it's a pack's going to come out. A pack's going to come out every week, and if it's one thing if you're just going to play at home with someone, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be competitive, you want the pack as fast as possible. Like, I've been there.
Although, real quick aside, sorry, I do believe that Worlds is still just core set, right?
Yep.
I think that's very interesting. We'll get into that maybe later.
Which I think is good. I think that's cool. I like the LCGs a lot of times having this like Worlds, this very basic Worlds. But anyways, I think that is, in general, the way it was handled is somewhat of a concern to me, because there may be people that get disenfranchised or upset because it's just different than expected.
Managing expectations is one of the most
100%. I mean,
it's pretty hard.
Honestly, in any relationship,
impossible.
whether it's friends or spouses or business to customer, communication is pretty important. And so if you bought into something, if Magic randomly just decided, hey, we're actually going to put 3 sets out in the next 3 months instead of once every 3 months, basically, there'd be a lot of people just suddenly not happy.
People just don't like uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of anytime you feel surprised.
Human beings don't like the unknown. If there's one thing I've learned in my however old I am, years of life, the unknown is terrifying for everyone, really.
And I think that's really why the podcast topic changes to what is an LCG, because historically speaking, LCG as we understood it, non-collectible game, you have core sets that don't have a full play set, so you maybe have to buy 3 of those. You have cycles of 6-packs.
Those core sets are evergreen.
Followed by expansions. The expansions and the core sets are supposed to be evergreen. And
that
also,
only happened during the rotation announcement, right?
Yeah, but that
technically
was back in 2014.
Yeah, that's right.
That was 3 years ago.
That's crazy.
So
my life is evaporating in front of my eyes.
Anyways, so you have this understanding of what an LCG is, right? And what this does, not only is it you bought into a game that is not different than expectation, and you're being communicated about it. And again, there will be plenty of people that are very happy about this.
Yeah.
Like, I've already talked with a couple people that are like amped. But it brings up the further question, which is, you are saying, FFG is willing to take chances. They're willing to shake it up. I'm into it, right? Personally, LCGs, we've seen it 5 or 6 times in a row now. They have similar issues. They have similar struggles. And I would love for them to do something different, right? And not just be stuck in this format that was created back in 2008 or something.
Because it started basically with one simple change.
But
which was the packs.
coming off the heels of, you just made a major change for 2 games. Suddenly, without notice, against something you said before that was kind of an evergreen statement, right? This is like here's how this works, period. And to have it hit so quickly, now people are, I would expect, I'm now left with the question of, what is an LCG? Like, what does it mean? Are there even going to be expansions? Are there going to be, like, are you going to release 6 packs at once? Are you going to, could you switch to collectible? Like, who knows what you're going to do? And that uncertainty, right, is just pretty wild.
Let me inject some of my thinking into this conversation, right? So
I see the...
yeah, it's the curve. So we've said that the expectations are historically a slow drip, right? The game is a slow drip of products, easy to keep up with. So it may be the case that looking at the FFG, like living card game numbers, that is not feasible from a marketing standpoint. Like, all of the LCGs that go through this expected process end with an expected demise, right? So we've talked about this.
We've run it through the system before.
There's a reason we've talked about LCGs as a topic many times on this cast, because it's obvious that something isn't working, right? Something must be done. So first, this is something being done.
Both for Netrunner and L5R.
For Netrunner and L5R, right? New approach, new things. Obviously, you can't say on the one hand, the expectation is that it's a slow drip and everything's great, and on the other hand, I wish these LCGs would last longer and be sustainable. Obviously, those two things are now incompatible. They've been seen to be incompatible and changed. So that's one potential reason why this is happening. I think understanding the why is a good part of it. Another reason might be that we have in L5R an influx of old collectible card game players who are seeing the LCG for the first time. And Fantasy Flight is saying, we're pretty worried that a bunch of collectible card game players are going to get very bored of the LCG format with their first exposure with it. And we're going to do a little borrow from the CCG burst thing, borrow from the LCG, do the slow drip after that thing, and we're going to try to capture both audiences in a way that pleases both. Maybe riles a few in each, but ultimately pleases both. So that's another reason why this could be happening. I think the stores locally, I think Asmodee as a whole, Christian Peterson as an entity, I think I'm willing to stake my reputation on saying that with all the interviews that we've done with him, very much focused on store models, right?
Local store.
The local
store.
Yep.
Very, very, very interested in, sees literally the local store as the epicenter of this hobby, and that it needs to be here. It can't just go away, right? And has put in all sorts of policies to make that happen, whether it's the minimum advertised pricing, all these kinds of policies. This could be another one of those shout out to the stores, because as a store owner, you now get 6 packs worth of revenue in 6 weeks instead of 6 months. So that's better for you. So now maybe store owners are more likely to support L5R because they see that these products are moving. You have 6 potentially or more events every week. Like every weekend, you can have a new L5R event with a new pack. You get people excited, people come into play, they buy their pack from you. And so it could be a way to really entrench these stores in an L5R, base.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really wanted to add is that doing like some research on, actually reading John Taffer's book, if I'm completely honest with you.
Bar Rescue.
Bar Rescue. I learned that when someone engages with something, let's say a store in this case, 3 times, that's sort of the magic number, and the retention rate skyrockets after that.
Now, a real valid concern, again, is that LCGs historically, even in local stores across the world, are, again, under this slow drip model, right? And so the kind of counter to that is, I bet there are, again, stores are finding out about this for the first time, right? They chose to support this game when it came out, under a very specific understanding of how this was going to work. And do they have the bandwidth to host 6 events in a row? Do they want to host 6 events in a row, right? Do they have the store time, the staff time,
Do they have enough time to plan those things?
Exactly, because we're and that's where the main thing to me is not that FFG obviously owns the LCG. They can define it however they want. And I think the big hang up for me right now is not that there are 6 packs coming out. And it's, again, of all the things you could possibly do, this is very low on the like concern list. Products coming out, so that's great. But the truth is, it's like, what is an LCG, right?
When are these packs set to hit? When's the first one?
November at some
All
point.
right, well, then you got time to plan.
And even the way the article kind of reads, it sets it up as though this is how this cycle is going to go.
Yeah, a special kind of...
No promises on anything else.
Yeah.
But I think that's, again, part of the, like, what you're not saying also leaves question marks.
Well, here's the final thing I'll say before we can actually say what is an LCG, because I have my answer to that, by the way. I think what we're seeing is, and Andrew was on the podcast, right, early on in the cast. Great, huge Andrew fan. Episode 9, right? I think we're seeing what happens whenever we have a new head of FFG Studios, and especially somebody who is so interested in heavy metal. You know what I mean?
I mean, wild things are going to happen.
I mean, Andrew,
Navarro.
so this has been under the helm of Christian forever. And Christian strikes me as a much more conservative, like, just play it straight kind of a person who's willing to, invest in new stuff. He is an innovator in his way, but then once it happens, it's like, all right, let's let that go. Let's let that happen. We've done it. Let's move on to the next thing. Whereas Andrew, I think, has been here, was an avid Netrunner player. I know that for sure.
Knows what it's like to be engaged in the game.
Yeah, knows what it's like to be engaged. His own interest in Netrunner drops off because of various things that happen in design. And it's like, why are we just sitting around and letting this happen? Why are we not actively trying to do better on things that are obviously failing under our watch? So, and the hard reality of business is, like, a lot of times you choose to either get something done with potential sloppiness involved or do nothing. I mean, a lot of times those are really the options, just in the matter of whether it's a bureaucracy and it just takes a long time for things to happen, or it's just too risky, or it's scary, or not enough stakeholders are interested. But, just seeing something being done for both of these games gets me super excited. I understand all of the concerns, and I think they're valid. I think that the communication, the uncertainty of it now leaves a lot to be desired. So can we get a statement about what is a living card game now?
Well, and...
Or is it different for every game?
I mean, it could be as simple, right, as a living card game is a non-collectible game.
Period.
That we release. When we make a release, you're going to know what's in it.
Yeah.
But the other thing that could now...
That would be awesome for our subscriptions, actually.
Well, sign up, because we'll take care of you.
Please, yeah. We'll get it sorted.
I think that's where it could become now the precedent. We have 2 things in a row, which is Netrunner Wild Cats happening, which I want to dive into. And also
so much.
The L5R pack switch up. And it could become that the precedent is the only thing's for sure is nothing's for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is the only thing you know about an LCG is it's non-collectible. We're only going to release, maybe it's roughly 12 to 15 releases a year, right? Some budgetary realization or constraint, a couple $100 a year, non-collectible. Other than that, we're going to do whatever we need to do to make these games awesome.
Yeah.
I think that right now the only thing that we can say for sure is that we are sort of in the scientific method part of the LCG.
That's right.
That, like, Andrew is basically making a prediction. An LCG is a bursty thing. And then he's going to put it out there. And then if it does well, then the answer is, yeah, let's go that direction. If it doesn't do well, or if the opposite happens, then it's like, okay, well, maybe an LCG is the slow drip. Maybe.
Well,
but it is, we are definitely, for a time, and I think this is really important to emphasize, this is going to happen for a time until it settles down. But this is definitely the very first, most unsettled part of it as these definitions try to get made by experimentation.
Well, I'm honestly not sure that era should or will ever end.
Yeah, that's
And-
true. Maybe
and
that's
it
the
will
living
slow.
element of it.
That's the living part, right? Is it just keeps evolving.
always changing.
But
Look at this.
here's actually what I'm most interested in. Here's what I'd love to hear, and maybe we'll get Andrew on the podcast or someone who can speak to it. Because who knows? Who knows where this decision came from?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
I'm putting words in Andrew's mouth.
I assume head of studio would have to sign off on it.
Yeah,
at the
but
very least.
you never know where this it could be L5R designers are like, hey, we want to do this crazy thing, or OP, or who knows what. But the trick for me is that I actually think, and we've said this before, LCGs are underutilizing their release format.
Yes, I
But
agree that.
more than that, I actually am convinced that each LCG has got to be handled differently. And the reason I say that is something like Arkham Horror LCG, which I think cooperative games are perfect for the way LCGs have previously been defined.
Which is why they're doing so well.
Ideal.
Which is a monthly injection of a new chapter of the story with some new tools that you can add in your deck. And it is a slow drip. It's not about collecting it all at once. You want to slowly be able to tell this story and play it over time. Versus a game that has a meta and a competitive element and a scene, and people get bored and things are overpowered or underpowered.
Right.
And so like, I personally, again, going back to Steven's freedom mantra of life, it's like, why commit to anything?
Don't tread on me,
right?
Jack.
It's like if Netrunner starts becoming dull or it gets imbalanced or it's wrong, why would you want to have committed to keeping the core set and the deluxe boxes around? It's like, don't restrict yourself to that.
Don't commit to anything.
Because as a player, right? As a player of like the Star Wars LCG, a game that was near and dear to my heart for many years, I would have done anything for them to do anything, right? It's like, do it all.
Like try everything. Yeah.
I don't care if it's monthly. I don't care if you change a fundamental rule of the game, take out the objective set systems. I don't care if you get rid of the start. It doesn't matter.
This
right?
is that old thing that is brought up a lot on this cast, which is when your options are do something or your game dies, then it's
Please
do
do something.
Yeah, it's do something. Even as uncomfortable and as disruptive as that might be. And that goes to Steven's earlier point, which is, or maybe yours, which was basically saying the LCGs have proven themselves to eventually taper off every 100% of the time. So if you don't want to taper off, perhaps a new idea is in
And
order.
one of the problems we discussed a lot, right, is like an LCG gets to that like year and a half, 2 year point, and like the reality of one pack coming at a time, there's just no excitement. So if there is here's 6 packs all at once, that is already more exciting.
Yeah.
Let me throw some dollars and cents at you, just to really open this up and see what might be happening. So you mentioned it earlier. If in 6 months, let's say I'm playing Lion Clan, and you tell me that in 6 months you will have 12 new cards, I'd be like, what? 12 new cards? Like that's not anything, right? That's nothing. So that's a problem, right? And as you spread out LCGs across a number of factions, which is good because you can hit various play styles and you can really, elaborate on the theme of your game, it becomes more and more difficult to satisfy basically like loyal players to a specific faction. L5R, number one factor in L5R is loyalty. And so if you tell me I'm getting 12 unicorn cards in 6 months, that is so boring sounding.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, at that point, it's not 6 packs in 6 months. It's 12 just unicorn cards. Right?
And it could be that the first 2 that come out are really exciting, open up a whole new play style. It could also be the first 6 don't really do that.
Don't do much.
And so if that happens, and I'm a unicorn player, I'm 4 months in before I'm getting anything interesting.
And check this out. What if this is the hard reality too? That in the past, aside from the cooperative LCGs, the core set releases, sales are a certain number. First pack releases, pretty good sales. Second pack, less good. Third pack, less good. Fourth pack, less good. 5 pack. So you have seen that over the first cycle of packs, that your game sells worse and worse and worse until it hits its kind of like plateau.
And I actually bet if I were predicting, the typical life cycle of any product is spike. Even through the first cycle, I bet you it keeps going up.
You think so?
Well, like every LCG in the past
wonder.
has Netrunner and Arkham and Conquest is like packs come out, gone.
Yeah.
Sold out, sold out, sold out.
Yeah.
Reprint, sold out, reprint, sold out. But there is a point, it doesn't matter when it is, could be pack 10. There is a point where pack sales flatten out and start going down.
I wonder if this is a way to capture more sales while the game is hot, rather than waiting and hoping 4 months from now that it's still as hot as it is right now, because it's never going to be this hot.
Even, it doesn't have to be true.
Well, that's not necessarily
It
true.
doesn't have to be true.
It
right?
traditionally has been true.
X-Wing did the whole like, went to the moon.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But the trick for me too is it's not even about it. Maybe they get more pack sales. Cool. The more important thing for me would be maybe because they put 6 packs out faster, the game evolves faster, there's more options available, and I stay interested in the game way longer.
Player getting entrenched in a game is important, right? Like, because we talk about it in terms of lifestyle games. These are like lifestyle games, or we've called them community games as well, where you really sink into this one niche and you're comfortable there and you have the same players that you're seeing and you're bringing new players in. And it's about focus. I think there's something really nice in life about focusing on one game. That's really fulfilling. So it's a lot easier to really get entrenched in a game when you have this like super exciting 6 weeks of releases, and then all this stuff is happening, and the people have come in, they've played in a bunch of tournaments, they've gotten to know each other, and now they're a community. Whereas if you just have core sets, a few people get bored, they leave, you never see them again, right? So I think that could be a good reason too. It's just a big experiment though, isn't it?
It's a big old experiment.
And I think the thing you're hitting on just really reinforces my opinion on every LCG should be different. Because with something like Thrones or L5R, where there are so many factions or clans or houses or whatever you want to call them, the truth is, like in Thrones, I always played Targaryen. And so in a cycle, I was literally getting 12 cards plus some plots.
Yeah.
And it's like, so every year I'm getting 24 cards.
Yeah.
That's like...
Maybe a game for like Thrones should be deluxe every 2 months. No packs at all. Right? Just drop
Just a big drop.
Or,
big card
I mean,
drop.
there's any way you could take it, right? It
Yeah.
could literally be maybe once a year, every clan gets a pack. And it's a whole pack. Here's
Yeah.
your 20 cards for the year.
Yeah.
Get jazzed, right? Or point being, I think every game should be handled differently. At least could,
And
to its own benefit.
We're not even attached to the 6-pack thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Why not
Get it
just
out of here.
you just have 7 L5R packs, 1 for each clan, and there you go. Done. And maybe some neutral cards so that other, you might have to buy
pack,
into
yeah.
it. If you,
Or if you want to splash, I mean, you're going to have to pick up the things or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
I mean, and I'm...
20 packs,
If
80 packs.
If you're going to leave it how it is, I think you could do that, right? Versus like we've talked about
Check
in the
out your
past,
chair.
like integrating the
Pack
story
them.
or integrating these. That's why the cooperatives to me work in that format, which is you get this every month, you get a new chapter, right?
The cooperatives work because the excitement of the game doesn't lie in what your opponent brings to the table.
Yeah.
That's it, right? It's the scenarios. I want a new chapter of a book, right? It's great. And that happens no matter what cards I have in my player deck. But like whenever the game that we're playing, L5R, the excitement of that depends on your deck and my deck, and those don't change. It's not gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that.
Well, and that's where like if you have one a month, we show up to this. We have the same local community, 6 to 30 people for whatever game you're gonna play, and it's like you play the same people, the same decks are winning. If the game doesn't move fast enough, then like people get bored and move along. So before we get out of that particular topic, I do want to move to Netrunner for a second, but I would like to know if you, on your base definition, how would you define an LCG if it were you?
I mean, at this point, if you look at what we thought it was, we can cross off everything except non-collectible game using cards.
I would say non-collectible game that expands on some sort of rather consistent basis.
On a regular basis?
Yeah.
An expanding
Yeah.
non-collectible.
Because
card
it's
game.
like Carcassonne is an expanding a game that has expanded that's non-collectible, right? You can buy like knights or whatever, but it
But it's
doesn't.
not a card game.
Yeah, it's not a card game.
But it's not that different, is it?
It's not that different, but I think having knowing that this game is built to expand and evolve, right? That's the living portion of it. I'd really love to see a lot more. We've talked about that before, or along with the evolution. But I think that it's that knowing that buying into it, knowing that it's going to evolve, and that's part of the game.
The experience.
But that's where, to me,
experience,
all I really need the commitment of is this is a non-collectible game with loosely, this is how much money you will spend to buy everything every year. Because outside, I don't want it to be restricted, right? I remember back in Thrones 1.0, it was 6 packs, House Deluxe. And we got in and there were 2 or 3 Deluxes that hadn't come out yet. The houses didn't have it.
Yeah.
And it's like, for 2 years, the houses that don't have a box just have 60 less cards.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want, with Game of Thrones, it's like, core set, 6 months is 6 Deluxes for the six different houses. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as I know
Drop
it's...
them all at once.
Exactly.
Drop 'em
as
all
long
at
as it's
once.
non-collectible and I know that in a given year, I'm not going to spend more than X dollars plus or minus. Like right now, if you had 12 packs and 2 deluxe boxes, right? You're looking at what? 180 plus, $250, right? It's like if you know you're gonna spend $200-300 a year to have everything for this game that we put out in this year, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
I really don't. Maybe
It's less than like a year car maintenance.
like in Netrunner, right? There was a
that's
couple
relevant.
years where like Wayland was just not so great.
a couple years, every year of the game.
Yeah,
It's just the beginning of
except
time.
for now. Anyways, so they weren't great, right? And it's like, give me a Wayland pack.
Yeah,
Like,
anything.
randomly, it's like, you know what? Wayland just needs something, so we're just gonna fix it.
Yeah.
And then you You can just do whatever you want.
If you have, a Wayland card, just give them a new ID that says Parasite cannot be played, and then they win.
Or no, a new ID. At the start of the game, search through your opponent's deck, remove all copies of cards named this.
Man, that would be a cool ID, though. That would be such a Wayland ID. Remove 3 cards from your opponent's deck at the start of the game.
And you get all that information.
That'd be amazing. How cool is that? It's just like they're just like accent. It's like Hit Squad, right?
So, speaking of Netrunner, last time we talked, revised core set, they got rid of the evergreen core set. Rotation actually happening, but then they announced a ban restricted list, effectively. As our resident Netrunner used to be expert,
Wow.
I don't know. You
No, I'm
said
not an
you
expert. I mean, Netrunner revolves a lot about knowing. It's like if I were to start hacking right now, I'd have a lot of catching up to do because I got to learn the programs and what's out there. I don't know that as well in Netrunner right now. I sure do know the fundies, though.
I was going to say,
Ice and Breakers.
that being said, Steven and I played a game yesterday, and I haven't
Steven
played
and I also
Netrunner
played a game yesterday.
for, I don't know, since the...
you played
the majority.
I remember seeing you play the 2015 regional.
That's true.
The majority of your playing Netrunner was doing early gameplay videos.
Yes, that's correct.
You were studying Netrunner on a daily basis.
More of that research.
But the upside of that is like I did not feel, and I feel like this is different now that things have rotated and there's a ban list. Certainly the decks that we were playing, and your experience may vary, the decks that we were playing, I was never like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I didn't realize that was possible. See you later. It was fundamental Netrunner, and there was some cool stuff like Daggum News Team. That was
card, man.
But it followed the rules. Like there wasn't Eater and all of this stuff.
It was a cute little surprise.
Yeah, it was a cute little surprise.
Yeah, it felt like Netrunner.
It felt like
didn't it?
Netrunner. Yeah, I was never just like, this is.
The best thing about Netrunner that I've always said this, I hope that I've always thought it, is that you should be able to adapt to a circumstance you discover in the game in time to correct for it, right? Like, I didn't know about News Team whenever I came to the game, but I hit my first News Team, I learned what News Team was, and I can now play around News Team for the rest of the game, and it's not devastatingly hurtful to my chances of victory. Oh, I took -1 agenda point. That's a real bummer. So now I've got to watch out. Anytime there's a face down, anything, am I willing to take 2 tags in that moment?
Yep.
Or
start running on your second click so that you know if you do hit News Team, take 2 tags, shake 2 tags.
Running and having money to do it.
And having money.
And there you have it, right? And then you've adapted to it.
So what's the general vibe in the Netrunner community right now?
I can't imagine it's anything but super positive. I mean, am I locked into the Netrunner community as much as I once was?
Online groups
I'm
and
just
stuff?
I'm like the old hermit in a cave that at one time, account siphoned a bunch of folks, and then they're like, well, I wrote about it, and everything's great. And then just am truly passionately in love with the game. But I do feel like I got a little curmudgeonly there at the end because I have in my mind an idea of what Netrunner should be, and it happens to have corrected to that place, which I am excited about, super excited. But the Netrunner community, I got back into the Netrunner Facebook group. Okay, so let me tell you something.
Open a can here.
Facebook groups may be the worst thing on the internet. Straight up, right?
Surprisingly, Reddit
has
really been pretty reasonable.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Really nice. Well, you've always been a Reddit person, and I think that the Reddit kind of ethical, not really ethics, that's not a good thing to say, but the general approach from people who are interested in Reddit is trying to be more civil about things. I think it's fair to say. Facebook groups are memes and GIFs or GIFs.
And just like slapdash from the hip.
Arguments.
Arguments, yeah.
Yeah, and just a very emotional.
Sometimes dumpster fires.
Sometimes, I didn't want to say it, but my goodness, so many of those people. Just total
I've
dumpster
been there.
fire.
I've been in it.
I mean,
I had to disengage.
We've all been there.
Politics, my family, not good.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. Anyway, all that to say, there are some good ones and some bad ones, as we know with everything else. Netrunner is a good one, right? I've really been enjoying it. It's actually of value, and people are quite reasonable, and that's been super fun to come back to and be like, I love this group of folks. And there's been oh my gosh, the drama that's been going on in the Netrunner community. So hold on, let me tell you, there's so much going on in Netrunner.
Oh man, there was the hack.
There's the hack.
There was the real life hack.
So to answer your question, I cannot tell you how excited I am personally, and everybody that I've talked to, the old Netrunner players that I am reconnecting with and getting their thoughts on what do you think. Hugely positive. Everybody's a huge Michael Boggs fan.
It's a Bog's world.
Yeah, and just like the fact that anybody, we're talking about Netrunner, right? That to me is a point to be made, that to anything to get people talking about this incredible game again and not letting it just kind of fall off the face of the earth is a complete win. So the excitement is huge. It's giant. There's been a little mix-up.
A little dust up.
I don't know how. So what I don't want to do, I'm not gonna identify, name anything. I'm not gonna give you any context for the actual people involved. It's irrelevant
to this conversation.
What happened was on Netrunner DB, which is the deck builder, the list builder for Netrunner, because it's coded extremely well in terms of usability.
Surprise.
The user experience is great, the UI is excellent, and it's just the best option to build decks with. So pretty much everybody uses it. Certainly most of the people that you'll see at the top 32 at Worlds, for instance, are Netrunner DB people. People post decks on there all the time. It has a feature where I can share my deck with you via an email link, similar to Google Drive, right?
Okay.
I can say, share my deck with Jonathan. Well, what that does is it actually enables your account for that kind of sharing to happen, right? So I can share with you and you and you. And it opens up the URL of my deck to you. Anyway, the way that it's done, it wasn't done with the correct like URL structuring or whatnot. And it became known that you could type in a random URL with numbers at the end of it and find a random deck if that person's deck was public because they'd shared it before, right? Or if their account was enabled as public because they'd shared anything before.
You could find all of their decks.
Yeah. So basically it ticked their account to, we have to enable this for sharing to share any deck. So the first time you share a deck, it happens, and then you're public. It's not like anybody can see your decks publicly, and you don't expect that to be the case.
Right.
It's just a private sharing kind of feature. Well, anyway, so you have basically numbers, and you figure out that they're sequential. Based on when the decks were made, it just adds a number at the end of it.
I like this already. I just like the sort of hacking nature.
Yeah, well, and so then, that gets discovered, and we don't know who has known this or if it's been used or anything like that.
Like wrote a script. They could crawl the site.
I'll get there. I'll get there. I don't know how long, but for years, people could know that you can do that, and it's like...
Yeah, just a fun little...
Whatever, but nobody's ever been known to have utilized it, right? And so then what happens is there's as far as what we know, as far as I know, there's a group of folks who wrote a script, like a bot, that would crawl through all of the URLs and was able to identify who screen name, username they belong to, right? So it's like, well, that's Dan Dargenio's private decks. Maybe we'll take a look at those. That's Spag's, Aaron Andre's decks over here. Maybe we'll take a look at those. And so, as it turns out, these people have come forward, essentially said, we learned that this existed, we made a bot, we crawled all these decks, and essentially, in preparation for Worlds, we looked at everything that everybody was thinking about bringing to the tournament. Now, we won't get into the nitty-gritty of this, but I will say very directly that there has been some really, really, what would you call them? Not tired, but trying, just crawling to try to say that this isn't cheating. But the exception here and the exception there is like, I get it, right? Everybody knows in the manual of Netrunner, cheating is whenever you put a fake card in your deck or you have 5 copies of X, Y, and Z.
This is beyond cheating.
It's cheating in the grand sense of human relations.
It's looking at the screen.
Right,
looking at your opponent's screen.
It's screen peeking.
It's screen peeking.
Except I can't look at your screen in return. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right.
And you don't know that you can look at my
peeking,
screen.
yeah.
I don't know that my screen is available.
I certainly don't think it's cheating. I just think that there is a moral code that is, it's sort of like I don't know, there's some analogy, it's like you know when you see it.
Yeah.
Is this?
Yeah.
It's like anyone on the planet, anyone in the group that was using this, there is a 0% chance, in my mind, unless they literally have something wrong in their brain. There is a 0% chance, and this is strong, I know, but there is a non% chance that they use that information and at the same time did not absolutely know they were doing something that was wrong,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is wrong.
Like, I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying any amount of apologies for like, this wasn't so bad. It's like, no, this was ridiculous.
I mean, if it was like, let's say I'm
And you guys don't even know who did it.
I have no idea.
Is this a cheating thing for like we should disqualify these people? Is there like repercussions? Is that the idea?
I don't think I can get into the tabletop realm of this. I don't think there's anything that needs to be officially done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do know that this community has every right to anyone that is in that group not want to engage with,
play with at Worlds.
I don't think that you have to be in any ever at any point do you need to be negative to someone or mean or any of that. And that's just not even necessary. But it's a general like disappointment. You made a mistake.
Huge disappointment.
And maybe if you come to the table, it's sort of like there was I don't remember the exact example. There's like someone got caught cheating at X-Wing, someone got cheating at Conquest at some point, and it's like, get it? You're playing a game. You wanted to win.
Yeah.
Maybe if you accidentally stumble on the first deck.
Yeah.
The fact that you wrote a script to find the stuff.
Yeah, that's where it went weird.
But the trick is, okay, if you end up coming to the table and you say, hey, look, I did something that was very wrong, and I know it was wrong. I apologize for it being wrong. I'm very sorry. And as an example, in this case, I had all the information. I had previously bought a ticket at Worlds. I'm not going to play this show.
Have you been following this at all?
Not at all.
Oh, it's so beautiful. You're writing the script for how this is going down, literally in real time.
I will do the devil's advocate part of this, if you guys want. Is that I think it's particularly fascinating, and I can see how someone would get carried away with this. Right, this is a game about hacking a corporation to get information that allows you to win. Right, that's the game, and so like. Packs haven't been released for a while, so I mean, why not keep playing the game? You just have a different battlefield. Like you're going to attract people. That like writing a bot is something that I would do, and I could see it probably getting out of hand before I realized that it was bad.
Here's the difference, though. Like whenever you and I enter a game of Netrunner, we agree to a set of rules where I know you're going to hack into my stuff, and I know that you're going to be looking for points. When you and I, as human beings, have an expectation of privacy on the internet. What you're doing by creating that bot is a complete violation of my expectations, and we did not agree to those rules whenever we signed up for Netrunner DB with the expectation of privacy. I think that's the number one difference in those things. I can see how, like, obviously people who are interested in writing bots are most likely to be found in the Netrunner community. Like that's not, but that doesn't excuse the behavior. Using it to gain a competitive advantage, it's just wrong. I mean, You cannot tell me that everybody involved with that did not know what they were doing was absolutely wrong, right? And it was absolutely wrong.
The hard part for me is that the thing that makes tabletop great is the community.
Yes.
For me, that's what forever and always has been the case, where it's a hobby and a medium that requires other people to be involved, and then human connection, and so on and so forth. So the idea that someone could commit an action so bad that if we get to the point where it's like, should you ban them from tournaments? Should they not be able to play in tournaments? Whatever. It's like to do something so bad to not be able to be involved. I don't want to admit that that's possible. But the reality is it might be, right? And it may be that whoever it is, I don't know who it is identified and it's, hey, it's probably best, if it were me, like if I had done it and I actually felt bad about it, it's like, I know you still want to be involved. Yeah. But you cross that bridge, right? It's sort of like if you heat of the moment, and this is way extreme case, but it's like you murdered someone. Right? It's like, sorry.
It's a little extreme.
I know it's a little extreme, but it's like you did it, right? And so like, sorry. But the truth is, in this case, it's like, unfortunately you did it. Yeah. And whether or not you want to show up to Worlds or you want to show up to any big tournament is your call, but a really sincere, heartfelt apology is at minimum required. Secondly, I'm just not sure you go above like store championship regional level anymore ever. Because like, if you stole my deck, here's a whole cold hard truth, right? Optimistic person saying I don't ever want anyone to be excluded. On one hand, cold hard truth. If going into Worlds of Destiny this past
year...
Really
got into this, didn't we?
Yeah, really. What is an LCG? If going into Worlds Destiny in May, someone had hacked my account on SW Destiny DB, or SW, I don't know what it's called. I think it was SW Destiny DB, right?
Sure.
Anyways, had hacked my account.
Right.
My deck had been revealed.
Right.
And 10 players from some meta had known about my deck.
Right.
And I got to that tournament and either lost or beforehand had found out they had stole my deck and Now the internet has
and
it.
had to play them.
I cannot. If I got paired against them at Worlds, being honest, it's like not a chance that I can. I will be respectful, but it's like I want to put you in the ground, right? And then it's like I don't want to interact with you,
right?
And that's just that's a hostile environment that you're creating.
So let me tell you how this has gone.
Well, can I ask one quick question? Just to get it defined a little bit more, like how is this much different? And obviously it is, but how is this much different than like let's say you play against someone in your local store, that someone happens to be a sleeper agent. And calls, and then these things happen all the time. Calls their friends like, hey, this is what Dan's running. Like, I played against it today. Like, that's gone on since the beginning of time. So where's the line?
Here's the line.
Okay.
My deck list on my account
is never public.
It's private.
Yeah.
Me playing that deck list in a store.
Is you lose the expectation of privacy.
Yeah, it's sort of like I'm not that angry when at Worlds we play. You are friends with Steven, and after the game, you're like, oh man, Zach beat me with his Han Ray deck, and he had this card I didn't expect. Yeah. And it's like, I'm expecting that.
It'd be the same argument for like, what's the difference between me going somewhere and expressing my thoughts on, a living card game versus you reading my journal where I express the same thoughts. Right. That's the line that we have to cross.
The real line, the kind of comparison locally would be, I'm sitting there playing, and I go to the bathroom, and you grab a deck out of my deck box and look at the cards in that deck and then put it back. That's what that feels like when you like hacked in.
So basically, it's the expectation of privacy. That's what makes this different. It would be even like, and there's plenty of metaphors we've already gone, but if you told your friend about your deck, expecting them not to tell anybody because you have this expectation of one-to-one privacy.
An expectation of privacy, right?
Yeah, and then they go and violate that privacy.
And even by the moment I tell anybody else, I am kind of less expecting, but that is your point is taken. So this tell you kind of how this has been happening. So first of all, everybody says, my goodness, what a tragedy! The moment that Netrunner gets a revised core set, a new MWL, the meta is wide open. It's going to be the most ground-shaking Worlds that we've ever experienced since maybe day one, or maybe ever. Yeah, probably
biggest
ever. Because the card
pool
pool,
with the most variety and
everything
the least
is
known
shaken
factors.
up. And there's been people that have been essentially privately scouting across the universal meta from some of the best players in the game. And so now there is no longer that Wild West craziness. It's instead, I know what everybody's kind of on, and now I'm going to build a deck to take that. So it's a bummer, right? It's a tragedy. But what has happened is there is a good deal of very heartfelt and honest apologies, and you would be surprised to know how significant a lot of the players who have done this are. Like top 16 level players, well known in the network for years, didn't need to do this at all. Did not need it. Obviously,
but isn't that how it always happens?
It always does.
It's the same thing with like some embezzlement with a banker. Like
That's
it's
right.
like you didn't
it's like you're a $7 million. You have $7 million and you're trying to get an extra one. It makes no sense. You're just like risking everything on nothing. But a lot of heartfelt apologies have happened. A lot of reconciliation has happened. What has happened the most, which I think is fascinating that you said this, of the heartfelt apologies, anyone who has been truly apologizing from a place of this was absolutely wrong, I'm sick that I was involved in this, they all have backed out of Worlds.
Good.
I think it's record.
I think that is.
I'm going. I will not be playing in the tournament. I will not be playing in King of Servers, which is Spags event. I will be like doing whatever I can to help the community out. I will play with new players, like that kind of thing. And that's correct.
And I think that warrants absolute forgiveness. Yeah. Honestly.
And everybody else, and everybody has said the same. Like the network community as a whole is embracing that.
That is the actions greater than words.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you can apologize all you want, but going to Worlds, sitting out. Absolutely,
it's actually beautiful.
It's beautiful, and I think the community can take care of this. I don't think FFG needs to be involved, but there are also a number of non-heartfelt apologies, and this wasn't that bad. And yeah, I know I did something wrong, but whatever kind of stuff, and that's sick. I mean, it's disgusting to watch.
Again, honestly, I very much never want to exclude anybody.
Yeah,
and would not ever want to. There has to be a real bad line crossed for me to be at that point. But honestly, if you took part in this and are doing that, it's like, it's not that bad. Get out.
Yeah.
Like, I really, just, this is not the community for you. Like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to change your mind on that,
Bring your actions to the
welcome to come
table,
back.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah, you had a significantly bad action that can be corrected by a significantly good action, but it's not going to be corrected by words. I think that's just the fact of the matter.
Words open the door.
Words open the door.
That you can then step through.
Yeah,
But
it's just consistent actions that define a person.
Bring that all back around to Netrunner, the Netrunner community and Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff. I can't imagine how well this has been handled compared to how it could have gone. And so I'm extremely happy just
That's really cool.
to see the people who are stepping up and being very open and honest and saying, appreciate that apology, but you have to understand that these things still have consequences. Actions must be taken, and people willing to, before any of this goes down, to voluntarily say, I made a mistake, I'm extremely sorry, I don't want to lose this community, here's what I'm doing to correct it. If I can do anything else, let me know. And I think that's a great.
I think it goes back to this is going to be a weird thing, but like the blood feuds or something like that. Like if you, I'm not even going to go with this metaphor. Sorry, but basically actions have consequences. But I think it's also important to know that once those consequences are paid, the actions should be forgiven.
Yeah. True forgiveness.
True forgiveness, right? Like they have done something wrong. They have paid the price. And now it is a zero. It is a non-issue.
And honestly, this is, as I understand it, so, the swirl of information that happens
we're getting
these
this
days
third hand,
is
I
tough.
think,
So
at this point.
if I have misconstrued anything, really let us know, I guess.
But really, like this is
correct the record.
I think more than anything, it's a story about how great the Netrunner community is, and it has always been great.
Hey, let's be real. Like most tabletop gaming communities, like everybody,
very much so.
everybody thinks they're special. I do think that Netrunner is somewhat special because it's such a different kind of game. It appeals to a different kind of person. But I think in general, most tabletop gaming communities, when you get down to it, when you get past the, as we say, trash can fire of the 5 people who are super loud, are genuinely great.
Yeah.
And that's just cool.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all that just face-to-face interaction.
Solving your own problems.
It breeds a lot of connection.
So what is the living card game? Non-collectible?
Non-collectible thing. It does some. It comes out. It releases.
It's expectation of releases over time. And it's going to expand, and you probably don't spend more than $300 a year.
And hold on to
Hold on to
what
your
you got.
horses.
Hold on to what you got. Subscribe to the cousin subscriptions because you'll get your packs no matter what.
What a great marketing swing for us.
But really,
no matter what happens, those packs will show up on your doorstep.
The world's a crazy place, but if you just subscribe,
we'll take care of it. Oh my God. But really, I am hopeful that this is a sign of them being willing to treat each LCG individually, to keep these games healthy. Even with Netrunner, they said that the new list is something they're going to update every quarter. So every 3 months, they're going to keep this in check. And I'm excited to see what has come. And of course, you can subscribe if you want to just get stuff as it comes out.
What a miracle, right?
And if you're asking, this is something that I've already seen. Robert's away, so I'm handling customer service. If you're an L5R subscriber, you're going to, if 6 packs come out in one day, you'll get charged 1 to 2 weeks before it comes out. We'll ship it to you automatically. It'll show up maybe a day or 2 after release at max, domestically speaking.
Yeah,
caveats here. But yeah, it'll be just like normal. And that's kind of the nice thing with subscriptions. No matter how it ends up happening, we'll take care of it. You'll get your packs, and life will go on.
The end.
So let's get some questions from that awesome community. #AskCovenant if you want your question answered right here on the show. First one came on YouTube from Will Standfest. He said, Destiny's been my first foray into FFG games. After listening to the show for a while, Steven's love of Netrunner has me excited about trying the game.
That's great.
The revised core set sounded like a pretty great starting point for a new player. I'm confused by your comments that it's not a great starting point for new players, and I'm wondering, how would you recommend someone try out Netrunner for the first time, and what would I even buy to get started in the game of Netrunner?
I think that probably stems from the comments about how it's not solving the problem for new players, that a revised core set doesn't fix the issue of buying into all past data packs, all past LX expansions. The revised core set is an incredible starting point. In fact, like all of our Netrunner videos that we're recording, it's fine to say this.
We're doing a Learning Netrunner series.
Yeah, we're recording a Learning Netrunner series similar to our Learning L5R series that revolves around the revised core set, 1 deluxe expansion to match with whatever faction we're playing, and then 1 data pack. Right?
Pretty easy buy-in.
So it's an easy buy-in. So honestly, what I would suggest is those videos are going to start coming out pretty soon, and we'll post all those deck lists, and it'll have
our site.
all the products that you need. And so at the very least, just buying the revised core set is a given, and then whatever faction you like, buying that deluxe expansion. So Creation and Control, for instance, is HB and Shaper. So if you like HB or Shaper, you grab that box, and then you can get any data pack you want, and that's a starting deck that we're going to provide you with. And then if you like how that deck's playing, just grab some more data packs, just look them up. Say like, I need some more advanceable ice technology. So I go get this data pack that has an advanced card in it. And so you can pick and choose and kind of stick to one deck to get started. And then over time, as you tweak that deck, you start to build your card pool. And now you can maybe build a second deck for the corporation. And then you can just kind of get into it slowly. So that's what I would suggest is one deluxe box, one core set, and one data pack, and that kind of gets you in the zone.
Yeah, if you're looking to get started on any particular thing, you're not into deck building. I'm into deck building, but I don't ever have time for it, so we will post all those deck lists.
And as a marketing person here, we should say that we have currently revised core sets bundled with subscriptions at 20% off those core sets. So trying to make it as easy as possible to pull the trigger on this, get your revised core set, get subscribed so you'll start receiving the new packs as they come out. And even that would be a pretty terrific start.
Just a pretty great start.
Like you start with a revised core set, and as new packs show up in your mailbox, just open them up, whatever you're excited about, throw it into your deck, and it just starts to evolve over time. You don't even have to catch up on the old stuff if you don't want to.
Cool. And I think to kind of answer that question is the next question is going to provide actually a pretty great answer. And this is from Akalotu Moloa.
That was pretty well done.
I was trying there.
Well done, yeah.
Do you think pre-made dual decks might be useful to bring players into Netrunner? Some folks don't have the time necessary to build / test decks, but might have the time to learn one already built. Perhaps 2 decks designed to be balanced against each other. And I think this is kind of exactly what I was referencing when I was saying it wasn't a great starting point. Revised core set is a great starting point to start playing Netrunner. But as far as, you buy something and can you play in a tournament that night? You buy something, can you play in a tournament that weekend? The core set is a great place to start to learn to play the game, but again, it's not, I don't know exactly, but typically not going to, once you get a couple years into a game, be somewhere that you can buy, build a deck, and be ready to play in the real time, versus this, which is, we've already seen, they have like the world champion print-on-demand decks.
That's right.
$15, Thrones is, as an example right now out there, $15 Thrones deck you can buy, a totally legal deck, not so legal anymore for Netrunner. Totally legal deck. And you could actually pay $15 and play in a tournament tonight with a deck, right?
That's cool.
And so with Netrunner, if they had, whether it was dual decks or pre-made decks for each faction, right? Even imagine L5R at some 2 or 3 years in, you have a deck for each clan. And once a year they update the new deck, or you have 2 or 3 clans that have a deck. It doesn't matter, pick 2. And at any point you can come in and pay $15 and you have a deck.
Yeah.
That's a really great way to get started. And the barrier is really low, and it, again, for people that don't have time to build and partake in that part of the community, you actually have a way to kind of stay involved and stay playing. Yeah. So I do think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, last question from 0 is 9. What's your expectation on balance for Netrunner specifically? And LCGs
I would like to know
in
that,
general.
actually.
He says, I've only really gotten into Netrunner, but I followed the others due to thinking I might try them out. I'm almost wondering if I should expect the game to not be balanced. Star Wars, Conquest, and even Netrunner had huge problems from the start. I think Netrunner survived because of the system, which is not an original FFG design. It's just that good. And he says, I can deal with rotations, bans, and all that, but is it really reasonable to expect Netrunner 2.0 to have learned the lessons from 1.0? Or should I see 2.0 as just putting an expiration date on the box?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think the thing that we talked about today is the best way to address this concern, is that obviously nobody can know the answer, but you're right. The past LCGs have all been too slow to correct glaring issues, and the cards come out too slow to shift paradigms away from things that might be degenerate. But what we're seeing is 2 extremely, risky moves.
For 2 different games.
For 2 different games. And that tells me that we're tired of running it the way that we've been running it. So should we expect the same imbalances that we have in the past? I don't think so. I think we now have a banned and restricted list for Netrunner. It's aggressive. People are making moves. I think everybody at FFG is willing to really go for this. And so we can't know for sure, but man, it looks pretty hopeful that things are not going to, repeat in the footsteps of past mistakes.
And one thing to really, as far as the history of LCGs goes, is they came out saying, we're never going to ban, we're never going to restrict, and we're going to make perfect cards every single time.
Did they say that?
Yeah,
I don't think they
said never. They said no ban list. Yeah.
Really?
I thought that was like a, I don't know that they publicly.
I would love to know if they said that.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure that
was. Is that like a selling point? Like there's no.
Yeah. Like that's why they were so hesitant, and they did such like crazy maneuvering with the most wanted list and stuff like that. I thought that's what it was.
I remember,
we can look it up. I know that there are
no
certain
ban list,
designers that might not have been.
because they've been a restricted list for Thrones forever.
Yeah.
First edition.
And even a ban with Jack and Hagar. But I know with Netrunner there was not a ban list for a long time.
Yeah, and
There was
I
nothing
really
for
resisted
a long
it.
time.
Yeah, and I think that was more of a try not to have to.
I think
kind of
Lucas was
resort to that.
resisting it.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, either way, that is now gone. They've realized that once people get a hold of this, there's stuff that is just impossible to see. And so, with the fact that they're updating this restricted list, I actually think that the balance is going to be a lot better.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
For me,
Better playtesting,
when
hopefully,
it
too.
comes to expectations from balance, it's like I don't. It's again like in any relationship, I don't need to know that it's going to be perfect. I just need to know you're going to try.
Yeah.
And so with these moves that we're seeing, it feels like they're trying, right? Old LCG formats felt like you're releasing it. If you get it wrong, you're kind of just letting it happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't just let it happen.
Yeah.
Like, just show that you're at least attempting. And if you do that, that's all you can really try to make it balanced,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
things are going to get missed and correct for
But
it.
yeah, then you learn and you get better.
Can I read Claire
Yeah, I was going to
Walker's
say,
comment? I
I
absolutely
put that
love
comment
it.
here that you loved a lot.
So I wanted to share this with everybody listening on the cast. Thank you for this, Claire. This is an amazing comment. I really appreciate the way you guys are playing the game out loud and how you methodically walk through each step in the phase flow chart. We're talking about the L5R learning series. Your post-game discussion here on Game 2 was excellent.
Thank you.
I played L5R this afternoon with my 73-year-old mom. Yes, she's a nerd senior citizen. She listened to my brothers and I play D&D, Warhammer, etc. for 30 years, and now is great at the new generation of awesome tabletop games. I built unicorn and crab decks out of the core set, and our game took about 2 hours. She described it as calming.
Which is great.
It's amazing. To which I add thoughtful and absorbing. My new favorite game, and I've never played a TCG, CCG, or LCG before. Love it. Thanks again, guys, for these helpful videos.
Thank you, Claire.
That comment
I can't
is
even
everything.
believe it. It's every reason that we've ever existed in a single comment. Makes me come to work every day for the next 10 years.
There it
reading
is.
That.
It really is awesome. Like, the feedback we've gotten on the Learn L5R series has been just the best.
It's incredible, yeah.
Really awesome. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it. You can use the hashtag AskCovenant to get your questions and or answers answered right here on the show. And of course, we like to end with a question for you to answer in the comments below. And the question for this week is, what would you change about LCGs?
That's a good
Until
one.
next time, keep playing.